It's another episode of the Next Fix podcast. And today we've got Drew Carmichael coming to us from Australia, right? Drew Carmichael, he is the comeback story, right? That's what we love to hear. Success stories are cool, and comeback stories are what people, they really thirst for, right? And this is what we talk about so many times on the Next Fix, right? Is the comeback. Now, the very first and very glaring and obvious thing about Drew is he's on the younger side. He's 19 years old, but that's never a true sign that somebody hasn't been through it, right? And so, Drew, I want to say first and foremost, man, thanks for making time for us today. How are you doing today, bro?
I am doing fantastic. It's great to be on the show, and it's really awesome to share with people who love listening to stories, and not just inspiration, but really the feeling that people are in the same boat and people are feeling the same feeling that you are all the time. It really just gives you such a good sense of that just drive to continue going, and let's kick it off.
Yeah, man. All right. So now as I had mentioned, right, here's the truth. You're super young, and you had mentioned this, you know, even in your writing, right? That some people kind of like write you off because of your age, but I want to know what were the tough times for you, Drew? Like in the development of your very professional, very impressive career, which we're going to get into, by the way, guys, but like, Drew, what were you up against as far as hardship, or maybe even your family? Like, what are the dark times for you and the challenges that you've overcome? Just tell us what that looked like for you, man.
Well, look, as I like to say, I don't usually talk about this, but having the feeling of being able to tell people about it is so important. And quite frankly, there's been a couple times that even over the last few months has been quite a challenging time. My family's definitely struggled with addictions in the past, and addiction to nicotine and smoking has definitely been a tough part in our life as well. In fact, my grandmother, who's just really, she's been a huge part of my life. She raised me quite frequently while my parents were working when I was a child. She has actually, not funnily, but unfortunately, she's just passed away today. Look, even though this podcast is about going through hardships and addictions, it doesn't stop. It doesn't, for me, when you achieve more things, it doesn't stop, but the more you work through it, the more ways you find to work around it. And life is tough. And that's what we're facing right now. We've done $4 million in sales, but the human life is so important that you just got to make the most of it. And going back to that addiction, so my grandmother, she did raise me quite a bit when I was a child, and I still am a child, but taking me to school, taking me from school, helping me with food and all of that stuff. And she smoked quite a bit when she was younger, and quite frankly, there was a period where she just had to realize that the health battle she was going through it's not worth it, and she has to look at who she loves and really focus on making her life changing her life. And
hold on a second here, Drew. I want to unpack this for a second, brother. Was she died today? Was that?
Yes, last night. So I had my final phone call with her yesterday, and look, it's very tough. And money doesn't solve these issues, but the fact of the matter is, you just got to keep moving, and it's not easy to do that, but you just have to keep pushing. I don't want to take the tone down too much in the pod, because quite literally we have to look for optimism in our life and see what is in front of us. And the fact of the matter is, you got to make the most of your time with the people who you love.
Right. And so I want to again, like, all right, first of all, I'm very sorry for your loss. And just so everybody knows, I had no idea. He was just mentioning that. I mean, it wasn't like we had spoken about this before we hit record. And so that's wild. But to your point, Drew, right? This is what we have to do. We have to march forward to honor the people that are no longer with us, right? And so here you are. This is a shining example of being able to move forward, to have that resilience, to bounce back, even in the very few hours that you had. And I'm imagining that you did have a last phone call with her, and I'm also seeing this as a very positive relationship that you had with her. But here you are, you made a decision today to continue to move forward and speak about her and make sure that people know, like, this is not a time to be, so distraught. as it is a time to celebrate her. And so here we are. This I want to make sure and make it clear, like that's what we're doing here. We're honoring her by helping you, raising you as a young child, her participation in your development, right? And here you are. She has got to be so proud that you have the resilience to just kind of business as usual. I have to move forward, which is, not everybody that listens to the show has that built into them, man. So, again, sorry for your loss, but
Oh,
to your point,
absolutely.
right?
Yeah.
You businesses, you had to carry forward, right? And so here it is. How did you develop this type of a person that can see the silver lining of celebrating your grandmother and kind of continuing on with what needs to be done, being on podcasts and carrying on business? Like, how did you develop this character at such a young age?
Great question. And look, I think that's really a testament to the success of getting $4 million in sales and all of the results that we've generated for clients. And by the way, sorry, I should have clarified. I run a marketing agency across the world, and we do launch some really, really incredible products. But look, it's that vision, in my opinion, of, I wouldn't say being selfish, because quite frankly, we've definitely done our part in mourning and all of that sort of thing. But it's about being able to see the bigger picture and to go, look, what would this person really want? And also what is actually, like, I'm not saying that it's not worth celebrating their life, because it is, but it's also not worth irresponsibly wasting, I wouldn't say wasting your time, but really focusing on what needs to be done and what is highly, I have a very productive mindset, I suppose you could say. And it's really, really tough to sort of gain that. You need to be able to look at your goals and then work your way back from that. And from when I was a kid, right, we had to have some sort of goal to be able to get. And this really comes from the entire family, and especially on the side that my grandmother was on. They moved to Australia from a concentration camp in Germany, and that was a really tough period, simply because they literally had nothing. And our family has slowly built that up over time. And that is another element to myself looking back at the people who have gone out of their way to raise me and gone out of their way to sort of provide a suitable life. You can't let them down. And there are days that I sit down. There are days, especially last year, a client approached me and said, "Hey, Drew, look, this is very silly. We're going into crypto. I lost $20,000 in crypto last year." And that was obviously a tough time, because $20,000 can definitely go a long way. And to be able to sit down and sort of gather your thoughts on a very large financial loss and go, look, we can't change what has happened, but we can change the future. And to really put your heels in, dig your heels in and go, look, that is what we have to work towards. Where's our goal? Our goal hasn't changed, but we've suffered a major setback here. Let's just reconvene our thoughts and focus on what we have to work towards.
So again, I want to talk a little bit about this solution oriented, future oriented, goal oriented mindset,
Mhm.
because it's imperative for somebody that has any goal whatsoever. Thinking about the future
Mm.
is important. And
Mhm.
many people, if they're up against substance abuse or any kind of real challenges, or they're in recovery and that type of a thing, many times what is stolen is the consideration of the future. Just to
Mhm.
let you know, like, the immediate gratification is how people get stuck in that cycle, is foregoing the future benefit, or delay, or like the benefit, right? And just going for what's right in front of you, right? That's how a lot of this audience like gets into trouble. Why? Because it's like, we know that drugs and alcohol will give us exactly what we need, at least in the next 10 minutes, right? So to have such a mindset like you had just mentioned, Drew, right? To maintain the eyes on the prize, right? Keep that focus on what is truly important, and even, putting things into place, right? Like you put the loss into place. It was significant. It's $20,000. It was a mistake. However, you being, again, speaking to your character, it's so valuable that you're able to see that and not let it derail you. And again, I mean, this runs parallel to the loss of your grandmother. It didn't derail you. Why? We had an appointment to have this
Mhm.
podcast recording, right? Like we already had this, it was already in the works. And so you're like, well, I'm not going to derail Ryan's plans or anybody else's plans. The world must continue to turn. And so therefore, to honor your grandmother, right? You're just kind of marching forward. But,
Mhm.
this has been clearly built into you from your lineage, right? So the same grandmother, right? On your grandmother's side, they moved to Australia with nothing but their lives, which is a blessing coming out of a concentration camp, right? Which is more than a lot of people had from that
Look,
particular
it
circumstance.
wasn't her, it was her her family, correct.
Right.
But 100%, you're entirely right. It is definitely following on with the lineage of coming out of that substance abuse because, everything feels like it happens in the moment. And that's what it really shouldn't be. You should look at the far future or even where your goal should be. And even if it seems unattainable now, you really need to backtrack and look at what are the first steps to achieve to get to that goal. And sorry to cut you off here, Ryan, but I've
Oh,
had a
that's all right.
chat with a lot of my fellow friends and family about this sort of mindset because it's very tough, especially when you're in a situation where things are happening day by day, which quite frankly happens at a low bank balance or challenging relationship status or substance abuse, as you were talking about, and everything feels like it happens daily, and there feels like there's a really large onslaught of things to achieve, and then that really hinders your vision of the future. Quite frankly, it needs to be a part of writing stuff down or really visualizing your goal. Nothing, I have a really strong belief that nothing until it's materialized, until it's at least on paper, it doesn't exist if it's in your head. And all around my room here is quotes that I've built or goals that I have to at least make them somewhat real on a piece of paper that you can touch, they're tangible to be able to then go, I'm going to build this into my own life.
Let me ask you, Drew, where did it come from? I mean, the resilience, right? We know kind of where that's coming from in your family and things like that. But again, kind of how did you develop this character, man? Because you are so young, right? So was it taught to you in school? Did you take on mentors? Was it family? Were they your mentors? To speak so on such a high level, right? About writing down goals and making them visceral by being able to read them and then put them to where they're clearly in front of you. This is high level stuff, right? What you're talking about is goal achievement like at a high level, right? So where exactly did you get all of these skills, or where did you start to develop this type of professional mindset? Like, where did it come from?
It's a great question. Look, and I haven't really told many people about this either, that during school, this is going to sound very stupid, but I didn't have any friends, right? And I know it might sound silly on the surface level, but when someone doesn't have many friends, it just really detracts from that ability to bounce ideas from other people and to not have the freedom. And a lot of people with substance abuse also suffer with that same issue that you just can't, you feel inhibited to go out to talk to people because they'll make assumptions of you. They'll, maybe turn you away. And that being afraid of the denial is really, really tough. And let me just be 100% honest with you that that's not going to happen if you genuinely have an issue and you approach someone in a really approachable manner. But look, during school and during those earlier years of my life, I didn't really have anyone outside of my immediate family and that grandma that we were talking about to really chat to. Look, I mean, you can chat to your grandma about as much as you want, but she's never really going to understand the entirety of your current situation. So it became quite imperative for me to really visualize those goals. And even though they might not be in the social space, those goals, the only real way I was able to achieve them is by just sucking it up and just pushing forward because the goals weren't going to achieve themselves. And I wasn't going to get any closer to those goals if I just expected it to occur.
No, let me ask you something, Drew. Because this could go either way.
Mm.
Do you think it was an advantage that you didn't have people or at least peers to bounce these goals off of? Because I'm just guessing here. They'd probably tell you you're ridiculous for saying, "Oh, you're gonna start a business at what, 14, I believe, or something like that," right? Or having millions in sales by the time you're 19, right? They probably would have laughed at you, and they may have like stolen some of your thunder. Am I right? Like so. Well, but in your opinion, do you feel that it was maybe advantageous that you didn't have like a social group?
Look, I definitely think it would have been advantageous, and I would not be anyone like I am now. And I'm not saying it would be bad. I'm not saying that I would be worse. Worse. I would say that I would be different. That could be better or worse. And quite frankly, the way that I think is that I shouldn't even consider that other option. Shouldn't even consider the what ifs. I shouldn't consider what it could have been, because it's not. And I have to work with what we have now to make a real, genuine difference. And again, coming back to substance abuse and coming back to those topics, that you can't go, what if I didn't? What if I did? Well, great, but you're not that. So you got to work with what you have now and make a real difference to who you
What a
are
massive.
if you want to change.
That's a massive. Yeah, I mean, you're 19, but these are like massive wisdom nuggets. And I'm telling you, like it took me to the age of, 35 at least, if not later, for me to realize that that question that you had just said, what if? What if things were different? Like it's pointless, man, right? Like sometimes it's pointless, and this is a big road or a fork in the road as far as like mental health is concerned here in the States. It's like some people say that you got to go back and you've got to fix that inner child, and some people think like yourself and myself, and it's like, who the hell cares? What are we doing next? Right? Let's stay focused on the vision. Let's move forward, and digging too deeply into the past, sometimes it's like crying over spilt milk. It's like, okay, it did happen, it sucked, but there's a much more advantageous route to go, and that's to stay focused on where we want to be. How do we want to become? And so that was interesting. I gave you a kind of a trick question without even knowing it. I kind of like so,
Totally.
but you are very pragmatic. Clearly, yeah. I mean, you are very dialed in, man. And so how did that develop? I want to know about your professional career, right? Because, what did that development look like for you at 19 to be achieving what you have, to be working with clients from around the world, right? Like, how did that particular path look?
Okay, I want to answer this in a way that relates to your topic, because quite frankly, during school, I was very, very into my technology. And due to the fact I didn't really have anyone to talk to, or I wouldn't say not anyone to talk to, right? Because I don't want to discount that grandmother and very supportive person. But the fact of the matter is that not having many kids to talk to or other people allowed me to focus on technology, and built a robot dog in grade 4, won national finals in that. But again, it's not about awards, right? It's not about awards. It's about seeing where there's potential. And where I saw there was potential is in that technology. And from there, we literally started, and by we, I mean myself and a Filipino virtual assistant, is just selling little collectible items from our version of Walmart, which is Kohl's. And from there, it's all about the little things. And I just wanted to start earning some sort of money. And really starting from there, selling those little collectibles, I netted about, 4 or 5 grand from that. And that was a really big show that it's definitely potential to gain sort of traction and sell things online. And that path is the path that I've chosen to go down 100%. But just coming back to what you're talking about, I didn't start off with aiming for $4 million worth of sales, right? I was selling these collectible things, which we literally got for free, and selling them for $5 to $6 each. And that, just a repetition of that and not giving up, seeing the goal and not faltering in that, was really, really important to go ahead. And again, coming back to that substance and really seeing the goal, you just have to focus on the little improvements each day. And that's why writing things down for me has been so important, because I might look at I call them competition, other people who are doing what I want to do. And I look at them making these huge achievements, posting it all over social media. And I go, well, I've only sold 10 $5 little collectibles, but that's still a win, right? And
Right,
every
right.
day, yeah. And every day, you just have to make a little more win, a little bit of a bigger win. And then you'll look back in a year and go, wow, I've made all of those wins. And then just pushing forward and seeing that goal, not going, what if I could have done this? Stick to something, make small wins, recalculate if you made a loss, and you go, oh, okay, that didn't work out so well. And then just keep pushing forward towards that goal. Yeah. So that really has been starting from there and scaling to this huge amount of sales through our marketing agency has been really important. And just not giving up on that
So
goal.
you started with something that was free, right? And you were, how old were you when this, I may have gotten that number wrong, but how old were you when?
I think I was around 13 to 14. Yeah.
Right. Okay. And so you took a resource that and again, the vision is there, right? Your ability to see that and then kind of have a future oriented consideration for something that was free. And you're like, okay, well, maybe I can do something with this. But there's such huge value in what you had just mentioned about starting small, because that's the name of the game. And this is what I speak about often, is that you have to be humble enough to know where to begin. And usually wherever that is not something you brag about. I say this it's a part of my story, my journey. When I was getting sober, when I was getting clean, my goal for not drinking was 15 minutes. I had to tell myself, I'm not going to drink any of that vodka that I have. I'm not going to drink it for 15 minutes. And I failed miserably many times. But the point is that wherever that line is that you need to start at, and it's almost always a humble line. It is always in a very meager beginnings. But here you are, you developed a business from the utmost of meager beginnings. You took something that was free that you could gain as a resource, and then you were selling it for $4 or $5, but you saw it as a win. That's the most important part, is that you are able to shed light on that win. And by doing so, you're able to stack that on top of another win. And this is the name of the, as far as this is my professional opinion, is that this is the name for all goals across business, self-development, progress of any sort, is always stacking that small win on top of another one and letting it grow exponentially. This is what you had done, but you had figured this out at a very young age. So here you are, 14 years old. You gained some free resources, which, there's enough of these around, especially here in the States. There's almost always an ability to find something that's for free somewhere and figure out where to bring it to where it's at, bring it to another place and either add value in the transportation or create or see the value in another place. But here you are, you're 14 years old. You took a free resource and you started stacking these very small wins on top of each other with just you and one virtual assistant. Now, how quickly, I guess, seeing you right now, right? You've got an agency, you're doing things globally. I guess, when did things really start taking off for you? When did you move outside of that free resource from what you were getting from Kohl's? Like, what came next after that?
Yeah, that's funny. Look, there was never really a time where someone just goes, you know what, you need to change it up. It's all about for me, it was about the courage and just being able to back yourself. Because quite frankly, no one's going to trust a 15-year-old to do anything for them. And that's, that's just an element of being confident in yourself. But also I had to be sure not to lie, because as soon as I start lying to other people about either what we could do or, who I was, and then that would start degrading our trust. And then also I'd be lying to myself. And the last person you can ever lie to is yourself. So
now, Drew, it seemed like you were tempted though, huh? Is that a real thing that a challenge that you had overcome? Like, okay, I'm at a point in my life, I'm 15. I could very easily just lie. I mean, because when you're doing business online and things like that, it's the easiest place to pull that off, right? But you made a conscious decision not to do that.
Oh yeah, no, 100%. And because of that, it was very tough. PayPal actually withheld at a very early stage. It held about $6,000 in its account because I didn't see, but the fine text said you have to be over 18. And because I didn't lie to PayPal, I said, look, I'm 14. They said, oh, we're just going to have to hold your money. So for 4 years, they had $6,000 in their account. When I turned 18, it was a nice birthday present, but it was tough, right? And again, there's so many failures that have gone a long way, even though they might be small, they might be large. the more that I do, the more failures that come in with it. And a lot of people say you have to fail to succeed, of course, but also you have to look for those successes. Otherwise you feel very much, humans, I find, inherently focus on the failures, and you have to really make sure you notice the successes, because that's what keeps you motivated and also focusing on that goal. But look, from there, opened up a Amazon store and used the money that I was able to withdraw from PayPal before it locked out everything to actually start importing stuff to Amazon in Australia. And from there, it was just about scaling up the operation with doing Amazon FBA. And a massive issue that just quickly arose from there is I got 100 massage guns sent to my house because Amazon changed its regulations. I didn't pick up on it. They received 100 massage guns in a container and said, sorry, they're not suited for us. And then I got about $4,500 worth of massage guns stock price rocked up at my house. And again, that is a setback for little Drew, 16 years old, with 100 massage guns. It was a pain. And
that's a wild thing to have. I mean, how surprised were you? I mean, did you literally open the door and there's these massage guns like just there? I mean, was it really like that?
Yeah. Look, I got a message about an hour before, but I thought they'd rock up in a truck or they'd be packaged up. And no, it was just some guy who rocked up in his CHR with 100 massage guns in the back. And I sat there and went, oh boy, here we go. So that was about $4,500 in the bin again. And it's just about, you just got to stand back and go, you know what, this has happened. Let's move and focus on what we need to do. So we needed to get them sold. So I had to open up a Facebook marketplace and swallow my pride, because I told a couple of the people at school, as I've said, I didn't really have friends. And I said, look, I'm now selling, and I tried to win them over with that, but obviously that wouldn't have worked. And then I had to swallow my pride and say, look, I'm not actually doing Amazon with these products. I have to sell them manually on Facebook Marketplace. And, that's the only way I could have gone through. I suppose I could have, repackaged them and then sent them off to Amazon, but that would have been way too hard.
So what happened? What happened? You're just like shilling them at like what, a discounted rate? Like, oh, well, I got to recoup something here.
That is exactly what happened. Yep. So I had to sell them on Marketplace.
I'm imagining you still got a few of them laying around. Am I right?
Well,
like you still got.
Funny. Yeah. Well, look, I sold about 80% of them, which was at 80. And from then I was like, okay, look, I'm making enough money now that I can it's a loss. You know what I mean?
Right.
So look, obviously down the path, but focus on making those improvements in the moment. Yeah. And then just go, look, got to work with what we have. And that was definitely tough. And it's just been little failures along the way. Clients say that they're not happy, or clients say that they're very happy, or we have to just work with what we have in the moment. If someone says that they're not happy or someone doesn't like their situation, you can't tell them, well, let's just rewind. And you can't do that with yourself either. So that's just what we're up against in the agency. And it's just stuff you have to work with.
Right. Now, let me ask you, because I still take a ding, man, when I get a negative comment on social media and things like that. But I'm old and I'm all calloused, man. My heart is like a piece of stone in here, right? Like, here you are, 19, man. Like, how do you have skin thick enough to handle that? Or even like what you mentioned, swallowing your pride to just tell people, hey, I got to sell these massage guns. Who the heck wants one? And you said you just swallow your pride there, but like, I guess, how do you prevent that? Again, from just, other than just saying, all right, I got to move forward. Like, how do you kind of mitigate that pressure or that kind of that pain of hearing negative comments and things like that? How do you mitigate it for yourself?
Look, it definitely takes a toll on me, and I can't pretend that it doesn't, because we're all human. And as much as I want to say, I just ignore it. Well, of course not. Your brain consciously thinks about it. And of course that happens to everyone. But there's definitely things that I do, and I familiarize myself constantly with who I want to be and what I want to achieve. And that's why I have it written down everywhere. And I have it written down in more places than just one, because there's literally behind my wall, behind my camera, I have a table over there with it's like a butcher's paper roll of just affirmations and plans, because I could sit down for an hour and have a Zoom call with a client that is significantly unhappy with what is happening. Or I could be faced with my grandmother dying, right? Or I could be faced with, I had last year a very close friend who was 18. He passed away. And that also was tough. But you have, like, I had to familiarize myself with, oh, you know what? Let's celebrate them. Let's understand them. Let's acknowledge it. But need to familiarize myself with who I want to be and just grind your teeth, stick your heels in and go, quite frankly, I can do all these exercises. I can do yoga for an hour. I could go for a swim if I wanted to, which is great. Yes, I've definitely gone for a swim and freshened my brain, but that's still not going to achieve what I want to be. It's just slightly procrastinating. And the fact of the matter is I just have to do something,
Yeah.
even if it's very small, even if it's just replying to an email while I'm feeling a little bit down, or writing down another affirmations on my board to visualize my plan a little bit more. That is still moving towards my goal, even how small it is.
Something.
And
Yeah.
that's,
And
yeah.
I speak to this often about, I mentioned what I call the victim's equation. And
Mhm.
so the victim's equation, in my opinion, especially working with people in the recovery space and dealing with drugs and alcohol, is that many times we are like, my parents were divorced, I didn't go to a good school, my my dog died, XYZ, right? Like you have one side of the equation and it's like A plus B minus C divided by D equals I'm an addict or I'm addicted or I'm an alcoholic, right? So the victim's equation, and what I mention often is that looking at our past and what we've gone against in our past, and we're letting that equal who we are now, right? And so what I can gather is you have the appropriate perspective, right? You have the appropriate vision to think about what's on the other side of the equal sign. You're not looking at what added up to who you are now. You're looking on the other side of the equal sign. What does the future that you want look like? And how do you do what is in the current moment to equal that future desired self? And so this is where it splits, right? The victim, the victimhood, the victim mentality focus only, what a victim will do is focus only on the past and how that equals their current horrible situation, right? And so that's what you're refusing to do. You're refusing to let PayPal hold you back, or even the death of your grandmother hold you back. It's only, all eyes on the other end of the equal sign, on the future that you desire. So what does that future self do in this current moment? If you have a desired self that you want to be 10, 15, 20 years from now, what would that desired person do in this current moment? Would they lay in bed and cry about their grandmother all day? Or would they make a few good moves to move that needle just a little bit forward to being that desired person in the future, right? And so when I speak to the victim's mentality or the victim's equation, is like, okay, yeah, I was adopted, my parents drank, I was abused. And yeah, those are all real good reasons to have a messed up. I get it. It's not discrediting the reasons or how you got here. It's rather that we focus on the future and desired self that is moving away from the victim, right? Instead of giving the power to your past, it's focusing on where we want to be and making the current decisions on how to get to that person. I mean, is that something that maybe, I mean, I feel like that's what you do, right? Is that kind of like how you lay it down?
Oh, 100% right. And I mean, my neck's probably getting sore from nodding so much, but the fact of the matter is, yes, you have to look forward, and you can't, I call them excuses. I can't look at the past and go, yeah, you know what? Last week I had a lot of trouble, or last week, I lost my grandmother, or last week I lost a friend, or last week I lost $20,000. It's fine. I'll sleep in today, or it's fine. I'll just go have another drink, or just I deserved it, or something. But that's not working towards your goal. That's not making those small wins. It's a little bit of procrastination in my eyes. And quite frankly, no one's going to achieve that goal for you because you're doing the old things. And exactly right. You can't use the what if I was different? What if I started 20 days ago? What if anything? You have to go, who can I be? What do I need to do to be that person? What do I need to do to achieve that goal? And then work towards that.
Right. Yeah, I love it, man. And now I'm dying to know, like, what exactly is going on for you now Because I know you're in the world of e-com, you have the agency, marketing agency, you have a lot of things going on. So maybe if you want to flesh that out or make it a little bit more explicit as what are you up to
Totally.
these days? And then tell us what you've got coming in the near future.
Look, right now we're in the middle of scaling our agency. We're onboarding some really, really awesome clients and a really, really awesome team. Our agency essentially specializes in growing e-commerce stores from my previous experience of growing those e-com stores and also growing lead-based businesses, so appointments or consultants, those leads as well, because we had to grow the leads for the agency. So we're using that strategy to grow leads for other people as well. In this system, we really just focus insanely on our clients because of focusing on those relationships. And in agency, in anything, in my opinion, relationships are so key, and positive ones work super well for our clients. And we have some great clients now, but we're always looking forward. And right now we're interviewing between 30 and 50 people per week to be in our team. So not for clients, but for in our team. And that's just because we believe that clients deserve the best treatment they can get. And it's very hard to replicate. It's very hard to replicate yourself because everyone is so unique. But if we're able to just really embody a really positive culture within our team, then that goes so far to deliver clients really, really good results. And yeah, things that are coming in the future, we're developing a new system for our onboarding. We're releasing some free ebooks and tutorials for business owners to download and engage with if they're interested in growing. We just love providing value for people. And that's why I wanted to jump on this pod, really, just because even though it has absolutely nothing to do with marketing, I still just love providing value for people and showing people that, look, everyone's in the same boat and we just got to focus on who we want to be and what we want to achieve.
No,
Make
it's
those
called
small
the
wins.
cultivator. The
The percent.
cultivator, correct?
It is called the cultivator.
right?
And it stands, well, the cultivator, we're cultivating something, right? We're cultivating these different relationships, we're cultivating the results, and we're cultivating their brand. And it's really just, I call it going ham. I don't know if that's a saying in the US, but we just go ham with the results that we get for people, and anything they need, we have the team to do it.
Right. Okay. So what are some of those results? What are those?
Well, great question. Look, in the previous year, we actually did a launch for a hydrogen jet, a private jet in Switzerland. It was based in London. They did the launch in London, but quite frankly, we literally 3x their email open rates, their email engagement, and over a well-established company in the US. It's just because we do things a little bit differently. And quite frankly, we treat clients as our baby. So the more time we spend on clients' work, the more we realize, we go, hey, look, have you actually just tried doing this a bit differently? It's not changing the game, but it's just sort of thinking on a different level than agencies usually do. And there's this guy in Australia that we work with. He's only 21, but he now has one of the most well-established car parts companies in Australia. He's now selling across the world. And for his ads, he gets around about a 10 to 11x ROAS. So he spends $1 and get $10 back in revenue, which is absolutely insane for this industry, especially they usually get around a 4x ROAS to sell these parts. So
that's a return on ad spend for everybody. That's like,
sorry.
No, that's,
I
believe,
get into that.
Yeah. Listen, what I love about this is what you had mentioned is developing this culture in your marketing agency, right? And I can see that to be true. Why? Because you were or not very younger, because it wasn't too long ago, but a younger version of yourself was faced with a dilemma of either lying about your age, right, or not. And so you drawing a line in the sand there tells me so much about who you are, Drew. Like that decision at such a young age, like it will grow into so many positive things, especially for the culture of your agency and what you're going to be doing from here on out. So it's very exciting, right? But now just let everybody know if they were interested in getting in touch with you, if they've got a business, whatever, or maybe they have an aunt, uncle, maybe they know somebody that needs to get a better return on their ad spend. Where can we find you? What's the best way to get in contact with you? What does that look like?
100%. Look, we're looking at expanding into the US very, very soon. I'm looking at moving to the US very shortly. But look, come in contact with us. My Instagram is by Drew C. So BY Drew, then the letter C. Or you can just find us, The Cultivator. It's thecultivator.co, our website. search us up on Google. I'm sure we'll show up. And look, if you know anyone who needs promotion, we always offer a free consultation call, a free strategy call, and you jump on the phone, probably with me or one of our awesome team, and then after that, you get a free document of exactly your business and how your business could be improved either by yourself. You literally walk away with that document for free, by yourself or by us if you choose to accept. But look, we're always open to assisting growth, and I love seeing people win, which is exactly why I came on this podcast. You know, even if the win's not necessarily monetary, it's always important, and you got to focus on it, and you got to focus on that goal that you want to obtain, and that's what we do at the Cultivator as well. So, appreciate it.
That's awesome. That's awesome, Drew. I truly appreciate your time, man. I'm super excited about your future. It's probably going to be, you know, one for the ages, man, one for the history books. So I really thank you for being on, guys. This has been another episode of The Next Fix. See you on the next one. All right, buddy.